breaking down the Vikings from the perspective of a former NFL General Manager of the Year. It's Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, presented by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
Welcome to another season of Jeff Diamond's Purple Report, brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Vikings season by your select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers and the 2024 GMC Acadia on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. I'm Jeff Diamond, former Vikings GM, former Tennessee Titans president. Our producer is AJ Fredrickson, does a fantastic job getting us on the air with all our clips and interviews. And AJ, here we go. Another season is here. Done with preseason, done with training camp. That's always a happy time for team execs and former team execs.
And Jeff, thank goodness we are done with training camp and preseason, because I don't think I could take another catastrophic injury to this Vikings team. Now we can officially push all that aside, forge ahead. The season is about to be underway. You're missing your star kind of blossoming quarterback you just took in the first round, but you know what? They didn't maybe expect to play him too much, but Sam Darnold's the guy. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of bright shining light on this defense under Brian Flores. I think some people might be surprised at how this team goes, but it all starts week one as they take on the Giants this week.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true, and the Vikings are not getting a lot of attention nationally compared to some other teams in the NFC North. Notably, certainly the Lions, who are a lot of teams' Super Bowl pick, including mine, by the way. But we'll see how that plays out. The Packers coming off a great end of last season. The Bears look improved. It's going to be, I think, one of the top divisions in the NFL this year, the NFC North. And it all starts on Sunday at the Meadowlands against the New York Giants. And certainly, I think it's an exciting matchup. There are a lot of really great games on opening weekend. We'll get into some of those games later in the show. But I think this is a really close matchup, and I think the Vegas wise guys agree, because this is the closest point spread of any game. It's only 1.5 favoring the Vikings, interestingly.
Yeah.
Even with Sam Darnold, the quarterback, compared to Daniel Jones coming back from his ACL in New York, but he had problems with his offensive line last year. So a lot of subplots to this game, definitely. But I think first and foremost, to be done with preseason is a good thing. And let's put a bow on the preseason. A couple of plays. We talked about Sam Darnold. Let's look at Sam Darnold throwing to Jalen Nailor on a play in the first preseason game against the Raiders.
Darnold back to pass, loops it over the middle, and caught by Speedy Nailor.
And Jeff, I want to hear your take on this, because I know a lot of people have kind of maybe written off Sam Darnold. He got drafted by the Jets, and then he went to the Carolina Panthers. He spent a year as a backup out with the 49ers under a Kyle Shanahan-led offense, and now he's come to Minnesota. He is QB1. He's starting, whether that was helped or hurt by some of the stuff this past offseason, but he has the job here leading into week one. He was taken third overall for a reason. Do you think this is a guy that maybe has kind of, the confidence has been pushed down and now he is exactly who everybody thinks he is? Or could he reemerge and kind of blossom as that third overall draft pick that people once got?
Well, I think that's probably the key to the Viking season.
No kidding.
How that turns out. And I think this about Sam Darnold. He has arm talent. He is a guy who gets along well with his teammates. He has leadership abilities. The knock on him has been too many turnovers, too many interceptions in his career, 56 interceptions. And a lot of those were in his years with the Jets, where he did not have the offensive line, did not have the supporting cast. Now he's got a good enough offensive line. He's got the best receiver in the game in Justin Jefferson, other really good weapons, Aaron Jones in the running game, Jordan Addison. I think this is Sam Darnold's moment to emerge and prove that he can be worthy of that high draft pick that he originally was. He's got Kevin O'Connell, who's a quarterback whisperer type of coach. And so I really believe that this is a good time for Sam Darnold. But again, he's got to get it done. He's got to prove it. He's got to prove it starting on opening day. We talked a little bit about Daniel Jones, interesting quarterback, the quarterback matchup in this game. Daniel Jones, coming off an ACL injury, had a lot of problems last year, only played 6 games. The Giants' offensive line was the worst in the league, gave up 85 sacks. But he's got a shiny new weapon in Malik Neighbors. Here was a play in preseason.
Jones down the sideline. Neighbors, a leaping grab and a tiptoe to get his feet in.
Darnold.
And Daniel Jones is such an interesting guy, because I know you mentioned he's coming off that leg injury, you would argue that maybe when he's healthy, his running game is the most dangerous part about him because his arm at times is a little awry. Malik Neighbors is obviously going to help and make him look hopefully like the franchise QB that the Giants need. But you have to contain this guy in the pocket if you want to maybe make him make a mistake.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be one of the interesting subplots of this game. One of the keys, how willing will Daniel Jones be to pull the ball down and run coming off that ACL with the shaky offensive line, all those different elements that come into play for Daniel Jones in this particular game. So I think that's going to be interesting too. A couple other highlights and a couple players on the defensive side just to kind of focus on. For the Giants, Kayvon Thibodeau had 11.5 sacks last year. He's one of the guys that the Vikings offensive line and the tackles, Brian O'Neill and Christian Darrisaw, are going to have to deal with. And here was a play he had recently.
Tibbs off one side, comes off an 11.5 sack year. That was his soft campaign.
Hit by Thibodeau and sack. Thibodeau's second sack of the game.
And he's just such a menacing guy for any quarterback to kind of see line up across from him. Sam Darnold, he's going to need that protection. And that's where that O-line that I think a lot of people, Vikings fans, have maybe chastised the team for not giving, like Kirk Cousins in the past. I think Sam Darnold does have a pretty solid offensive line ahead of him for this upcoming campaign.
Yeah, I think he definitely does too. And for the Vikings, one of the keys is going to be the quick development of Dallas Turner, the first-round pick. Here was a sack that he had on Aiden O'Connell in preseason.
Dallas Turner, first-round pick, makes his Minnesota regular season debut.
And this guy, I think, right now should be the lead-on favorite for defensive rookie of the year.
Could be.
They traded up late in the first round to take a steal. He was one of the top defensive guys in the draft, and seemingly it's a steal at, I want to say, 23 when they did move up to get him. They gave up quite a bit in a package to make that selection, and I think there's a lot of high expectations for this guy.
Yeah, there definitely is. And I think that's one of the interesting questions this season. People very concerned about the departure of Danielle Hunter. I think they could be just as good or maybe even better on the edge rushers when you talk about Jonathan Grenard coming from Houston, had 12 sacks. Andrew Van Ginkel from Miami, who's a very versatile player, can drop into coverage, also rush the quarterback, and Dallas Turner with his potential. Now, I think Dallas Turner still has to get bigger, and we'll see how that develops too. But as we kind of look ahead now and start thinking about this opener at the Giants, here's Kevin O'Connell talking about kind of flipping the switch to regular season.
Game week, moving, feels like we've talked a lot about the lead up, the process, things building our football team, but I'm very, very excited to have the game week upon us, and our team is already off to a great start with our preparation, but heck of a challenge going on the road in week one. Expecting a great environment there at MetLife, and we got to be ready to go.
So as we kind of go into the keys to the game, AJ, as we look ahead to week one, Vikings at Giants, and I'll say it's a really important opener for the Vikings. When you look at their schedule and what's ahead, and I'm talking about 4 playoff teams in the opening 6 weeks of the season, plus the Giants on the road, plus the Jets and Aaron Rodgers in London, it's a gauntlet for the early season for the Vikings. And coming up after this Giants game, they've got San Francisco and Houston here. Then they go to Green Bay. I think that really behooves the Vikings to get an opening win. Keys to the game. I'm going to start with run the ball well.
Yeah, they need to.
They need to. I think, and they emphasize the running game in the offseason, in training camp. Signed Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones could be one of the big keys to the season if he can stay healthy and produce at the level he did at the end of last season for the Packers. He had 5 straight 100-yard games when the Packers made their run to the playoffs and then crushed Dallas on the road. Aaron Jones, I think he's really a key. Let's hear his thoughts.
The real is real. It's here. The season is upon us. It's came fast, and everything is for real now. It's no more preseason. You can't get any days back, and as each day goes on, the closer we get to the kickoff of it.
Aaron, how do you just approach coming to a new team, taking on a role as a leader with a new quarterback, things like that? What's your approach been?
The same approach has been since I came into the league, and just do what I can to do to get better, make it about the process and progressing, getting better every day, 1% better every day. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And then coming here, learn the playbook so I can just go out there and play fast, which I've been able to do, and then make everybody's job around me easier. And that's whether it's communicating, making a play, whatever it may be.
As I said, I think Aaron Jones, he's amped up. He's excited about the season. You know he's going to be fired up when the Vikings play the Packers in Week 4.
Is he going to be the next Packer turned Viking that is just able to be, that kind of Packer killer, go into Lambeau, do the Lambeau leap when he crosses that goal line?
It's going to be crazy, that Week 4 game, but get to that point. But Aaron Jones, I'm excited about him. Ty Chandler ended up being the starter last year. He's got a lot of ability. He's also going to be the kick returner this year.
Yep.
And so I think this is probably my number one key to the game. The Giants' defense was 29th against the rush last year. It's basically the same cast of characters. So if the Vikings and they put Blake Brandel in the starting lineup, he's bigger. I think he adds some bulk in the running game. I think that's going to be really a key thing. And then we kind of parlay from there to pass protection, which is really important for Sam Darnold. And the Giants have a very, very fierce group of pass rushers too. But Darnold, as we've talked before, this is a big opportunity for him. And let's hear his thoughts as he enters Week 1 of a really critical season for himself and for the team.
Obviously really excited about this opportunity this week. Really good football team over there in New York with the Giants, and obviously, really good defense, very talented defense. Coach Bowen over there has a really good scheme from what we've been seeing, and just really excited for this opportunity.
Sam, what does it mean to you to be a starter again and get this opportunity this Sunday?
Yeah, again, like I said, I think it's a really good opportunity, not just for me, but for our entire team to go out there and, do what we've been doing all camp, just execute at a high level and, take it one snap at a time. And I think if we do that, we can have success.
And Kevin O'Connell talking about Darnold.
I think he's really confident. I think his teammates are really confident in him, not only just the physical side of things from throwing the ball and, his ability to be accurate, his ability to push the ball downfield, make great decisions within the rhythm and timing of the play. But I think it's just that comfort of the work he's put in and really, I say this a lot, but the 2024 offense is this year's version of our offense. It might look different. It might look similar. We've got a lot of things we're really excited about, a lot of players we're really excited about, and Sam is certainly one of them. But I expect him to go out and just execute the offense and play well. And with his skill set, I think Sam's going to be in a good spot.
And so as we kind of look ahead and talk about that Giants front, but before we do that, I want to talk about our great sponsor, the Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers. It's time to take the field in an SUV that's designed to be unstoppable in every pursuit. That's the all-new 2024 GMC Acadia. From its reimagined interior to its bold, capable exterior, Acadia is suited up so you can make the winning drives wherever they may lead. Whether it's at home or away, your team will enjoy the ride in comfort with 3 spacious rows of seating for 7. Plus, Acadia comes standard with other winning features like heated front seats, remote start, and a 2.5-liter engine with a GM estimated 328 horsepower. Or take yours to the championship level with available amenities like a panoramic sunroof or an off-road tuned suspension. Don't sit on the sidelines any longer. Test drive your new 2024 GMC Acadia today. Available now at your Select Minnesota GMC dealers. So keep in mind these names: Dexter Lawrence,
Okay.
and Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, we already talked about. And I'm going to go back to 2022, AJ. And the Vikings had a couple of very memorable games with the Giants. There's some history there. Certainly, we know the regular season game, very exciting game that the Vikings won on a last-second field goal. by Greg Joseph, who's now the Packers kicker.
Yes.
That's the way it works in the NFL. But there were a lot of exciting plays in that season. We'll take a kind of a dive back in history, and let's look at a couple plays from those games. Here was a Justin Jefferson touchdown grab in the first game.
Empty set for Cousins. Looking deep over the middle, and it is, guess who? Justin Jefferson, the clutch play of the day.
And if I remember that correctly, that was like the winter whiteout, winter warrior
Yes,
game.
it was.
I think it was like Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve, that's right.
And that Kirk to JJ game, they connected quite a bit. It took them a little bit to get going, though. But I remember at the end, it ended up being some key plays that did push Justin Jefferson into the end zone in order to set up a huge kick that you already alluded to.
Yeah, and here was that great field goal by Greg Joseph that won that game.
From 61. And he has done it again! And the Vikings do it again!
How excited are you to not have maybe a Greg Joseph, but see those types of highlights, hopefully, from rookie kicker Will Reichard out of Alabama?
Yeah, I think Will Reichard is a guy that the team has a lot of confidence in. O'Connell has a lot of confidence in him. He was a 6th-round pick. I think the good thing about Will Reichard, he kicked in big games at Alabama in the SEC in front of big crowds. I don't think the stage is too big for him. He had a great preseason, but now he's got to get it done when they count for real. And so I think that's going to be exciting to see how he performs.
And how much does it maybe help him, benefit him, to be drafted by a team that's run not by Mike Zimmer, who was notorious for not being patient with kickers, but by Kevin O'Connell, who, on the opposite side of things, has all the patience in the world for people.
Yeah, definitely. But again, he's got to get the job done or things change in a hurry in the NFL. It's definitely true. So as we kind of get back to some of our keys to the game, AJ, and I'm always going to talk about Justin Jefferson, now the highest paid non-quarterback in the league, got his contract done. He's happy. And by the way, in that last highlight where he did that fake hamstring pull, he's not going to be doing that anymore because he had a real hamstring pull last year. So we're not going to see that move again, hopefully.
Yeah.
But got to get the ball to Jefferson. As much as it's important to run the ball in this game against the Giants' weak run defense, they should never have a game where they don't target Justin at least 10 times. And I think that'll happen in this game. Certainly, Kevin O'Connell understands the challenge of facing that Giants defense. And here he's talking about those great front players for the Giants on defense.
Yeah, they go out and add, another premier edge player. I got a ton of respect for Burns. And then, knowing Thibodeau on the other side has been a player that's really just continues to ascend. And you can see it all over the tape of his first-round ability and what he's kind of grown into. There's no question, their defense is very strong on the front. And, you have to, when you mention those two guys, you have to mention Lawrence in the middle. Going back a couple years ago, just remember how much of an impact he was, and I think their linebackers are really good, and I think they, have a really versatile secondary to play a lot of different ways and coverages, so it really all works together.
And of course, as we have talked often, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, I think as good a duo at wide receivers as any team in the league. Addison coming off a sprained ankle. He is practicing this week. That's good news for the team. Jalen Naylor had a really good preseason, earned the number 3 receiver job, but he's also coming off a sprained ankle. He's had injury issues in the past.
Seems like that guy always has injury issues.
Yeah, and so the hope is that he can make it back for this game. We'll see if he does. Otherwise, Tristan Jackson, who had a great preseason, I think will have a bigger role, or Brandon Powell.
And Jeff, how nervous should Vikings fans be maybe about any impending suspensions yet to be labored against Jordan Addison?
Yeah, I think it's going to happen, and I'm sure the team hopes it's only a 1 game or 2 at the most, but I think it's going to happen at some point this season, and that's the difficulty. You don't know when it's going to fall. Yeah. Let's switch gears to the defense. Some of the keys we've already talked about: stopping Daniel Jones scrambling. How much he'll do it coming off that ACL will be interesting to see. They've got a couple good running backs in Devin Singletary and Eric Gray. They do not have Saquon Barkley, who hurt the Vikings in that wild card playoff loss a couple of years ago. And AJ, we're not even going to go to that play, the fourth and 8 play when Kirk Cousins checked it down to Hockenson. I think we've seen enough of that play. We'll forget about that. And I think it's part of the reason Kirk Cousins is in Atlanta now, that he didn't come through in that clutch situation. But
he's going to look real good making that same pass to Kyle Pitts this year.
Yeah, exactly. But as we said, I think how much Jones scrambles, and it's going to be incumbent on inside linebackers Ivan Pace Jr. and Blake Cashman, a free agent addition from Houston,
yes.
Ex-Gopher, ex-Eden Prairie. I think Blake's going to have a really good year. I think he's a big upgrade over Jordan Hicks as far as athletic ability and speed, and they're going to be playing a big role in stopping the run and stopping Jones. And then, of course, pressuring Jones against that offensive line that I think is still shaky. He gave up 85 sacks last year. Grenard, Van Ginkel, Turner, I think they could have a big game. And Brian Flores, of course, second year as the coordinator. I think he's going to throw the kitchen sink and everything at Jones to make him antsy and try to force some turnovers. And I think you can expect lots of blitzes from Harrison Smith, from Josh Metellus, and then, of course, unleashing the trio at edge rusher. Which also brings us to the new corners on the Vikings.
Yes.
Which I'm excited about because I think we've seen enough of a Caleb Evans. Andrew Booth Jr. is gone. Caleb now is a backup. Mekhi Blackman, who I still like, he's on IR. But I thought the Stephon Gilmore pickup was big for the team. But he hasn't played much in training camp this year.
Yeah.
Shaq Griffin had a hamstring, missed most of camp. Those guys are going to start on Sunday. How much action they've seen so far is questionable, and are they going to be ready week one to face the Giants, who have some good receivers in Neighbors, the first-round pick, Jalen Hyatt's a speedster, Darius Slayton's a good player. They've got some players on that team, Wendell Robinson, so that's going to be a key to how it all comes through. We talked about Will Reichert, he's a key. The kick coverage units with that new kickoff return rule, a crazy kickoff return rule, that's going to be fun to watch and see how that plays out.
And I've been meaning to ask you about this. It's brand new, something that never was, when you were at the GM chair, something that was never in the game. What are your thoughts on the new kickoff rule and maybe how much preparation teams have put into this type of new strategy?
Yeah, I think we're going to see lots of wild stuff. because touchbacks, the ball comes out to the 30.
Yeah.
And coaches don't like that unless you're going against a premier kick returner, then maybe you will, or it's late in the game. But yeah, I think the new kickoff rule is great. I think it brings an exciting play back into the game. So I think that's a positive.
Absolutely.
Other things in week one, limit penalties, always a problem because players haven't played that much in preseason games. Win the turnover battle. The Vikings were killed by turnovers early last year when they started out 0-3. And handling the crowd noise, Kevin O'Connell talked about that, always a challenge. So that's going to be really interesting to see how those things play out.
And that's the tough part, too, is like going on the road in week one. Even the worst of the worst teams think that they have a chance at making that run at the Super Bowl. All the Giants fans are going to be there thinking this is their year. This is our year to do it. So they're going to be all over the Vikings. So managing that crowd, blocking out the noise is going to be massive.
Yeah, and I think getting off to an early lead is important to try to create that doubt in the fan base. So before we get into our prediction of the game, and then we're going to go around the NFL, talk about some great games on opening weekend.
A lot of them.
Let's hear again from the select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers.
There are trucks, then there's the truck, GMC Sierra, with available features like the V8 engine, the ultimate luxury interior, and of course, the available world's first 6-function multi-pro tailgate. GMC Sierra, not just any truck, the truck. GMC's continued commitment to professional-grade engineering is on full display at your local GMC dealer. Come take a test drive today and see for yourself. We are professional-grade GMC. Well-qualified buyers get 1.9% APR for 36 months on GMC Sierra light-duty models. See your local GMC dealer today. Monthly payment is $28.16 for every $1,000 you finance. Average example down payment 15%. Some customers will not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 9/30/24.
So we talked about the Vikings defense And let's hear from a couple of defensive players. Blake Cashman, the new addition at inside linebacker, talking about getting ready for the opener.
I think just finally getting to put all of our work together and showcasing it for not only ourselves but our fans and the league. And nobody's really talking about the Minnesota Vikings, but I think a team that's focused and prepares well, like that's a dangerous team, and this team has a lot of pieces that we can be very successful and have a great year. So the way I look at it is we have everything to gain, nothing to lose.
And the Vikings' elder statesman at safety, the perennial Pro Bowler Harrison Smith.
Trusting in our preparation and the chemistry that we've been able to build and everything we've done schematically, and fundamentals and situational stuff. So it's football, and it's more fun the more it counts,
I think one of the keys is also when you're having new corners, new starters, 6 new starters on defense, and especially in the secondary, trying to avoid those coverage busts that can be so devastating.
Yeah.
I feel better having guys like Gilmore and Griffin and Byron Murphy, all very experienced corners, working with Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum and Josh Metellus in the back end. But again, you worry about that because they haven't spent a lot of time working together. So that's going to be a concern too. Let's get into our predictions and then go around the league real quickly.
All right.
So I'm going to say, AJ, that I think the Giants, coming off their kind of disastrous season, bad offensive line, still questionable. Daniel Jones, how comfortable is he behind that line coming off that ACL? No Saquon Barkley. I think there are a lot of things happening, but again, having to worry on the other side of the ball about those potentially game wreckers,
yes,
especially Dexter Lawrence, who really hurt the Vikings in that playoff game. Garrett Bradbury is going to have to be really good. So are Brandell and Ingram inside on Lawrence, while, as we know, Darisaw and O'Neal have to handle the outside guys. But I think that Aaron Jones can have a big game against a run defense that was shaky last year. I think Justin Jefferson will make enough big plays. I think Sam Darnold will be good enough in this game against a defense that's not a top defense in the league. And I like the chance for the Vikings pass rushers to have a big game led by Grenard and Turner. So I'm going to say Vikings win 26-23 on a late Will Reichard field goal. What do you think?
I like it. I'm going to go the same route as you. I do think that this Vikings team, they're not going to be world beaters at all this season, but I think they are good enough in week 1 to beat the Giants. I think it's going to probably be a good Aaron Jones game to get under his belt. The defense is going to come up big. Brian Flores has had all offseason to scheme for Daniel Jones, who's coming off of an injury. I'm going to say 24-17 with a good defensive stop late by Brian Flores' defense.
And it's going to be an exciting opener. I definitely believe that. Close game. A lot of great games around the league, and certainly the Baltimore-Kansas City opener is going to happen tonight. We know that's a great opening game. I like the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs' chances to win an unprecedented 3rd Super Bowl this season. I'm not picking against Patrick Mahomes anymore, which I did last year in the playoffs. Green Bay versus Philadelphia and Brazil. Really interesting to see
do you
the
like
matchup.
going abroad like that?
Wow, I wouldn't want to be working that game, going to Brazil. I did that early in my career as a working on the travel with the Vikings. That's tough. Ugh. But I kind of like the Packers in this game, even though the Eagles have a lot of talent on that team. Jalen Hurts certainly is a guy who the Eagles are looking for a bounce back year. Mm-hmm. Tennessee at Chicago. Potential upset, but I think the Bears pull it off in this opening game. Pittsburgh at Atlanta, really interesting opener. Kirk Cousins and going against Russell Wilson. Yeah. What a quarterback matchup. And Dallas and Cleveland, I like Atlanta to win. I like the Cowboys to win over Deshaun Watson. Rams at Detroit. I think the Lions will handle the Rams as they did in the playoffs in a close one last year against Matthew Stafford with Jared Goff, the ex-Ram. And then the Jets at San Francisco on Monday night. It's the Vikings' next opponent. And Aaron Rodgers' return. I think it's an upset alert, but I think the 49ers will get it done. They've had a lot of contract issues this offseason, but I like the 49ers in this game before they head to Minnesota on a short week to face the Vikings. And we will be back on Monday to break down the Vikings and the Giants and see if the Vikings get off to a 1-0 start. And this has been Jeff Diamond's Vikings Purple Report, brought to you every Monday and Thursday during the Viking season by your Select Minnesota Buick GMC dealers and the 2024 GMC Acadia on 1500 ESPN, available 24/7 on YouTube via links from the 1500 ESPN and Score North websites. This is Jeff Diamond with AJ Fredrickson. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you on Monday.